The hitchhiker's warning. It was just past midnight on a desolate highway in Montana. Paul, a long-haul truck driver, was hauling a load of machinery through the pitch-black wilderness. His headlights barely pierced the dense fog, and the only sound was the steady hum of his engine. He had driven these routes countless times, but tonight, something felt off. As Paul rounded a sharp bend, his headlights illuminated a figure standing by the side of the road. It was a woman, drenched from the misty drizzle, her thumb outstretched. She looked desperate and cold, and against his better judgment, Paul decided to stop. He rolled down the passenger window slightly. "You okay, ma'am? Thank you for stopping," she said, her voice trembling. "My car broke down a few miles back. Can you take me to the next town?" Paul hesitated, but the look in her eyes convinced him. He unlocked the door, and she climbed in. She was pale, her dark hair plastered to her face. Her clothes were soaked, and she shivered violently. As they drove, the woman introduced herself as Marcy. She spoke nervously, glancing back at the road behind them more often than seemed necessary. "Are you running from something?" Paul asked, half joking to break the tension. Marcy didn't laugh. She glanced at him, her eyes wide. "You could say that." Paul's grip tightened on the wheel. "What's going on?" Marcy hesitated, then whispered, "There's something out there. It was following me." Paul's chest tightened. "What do you mean? An animal?" She shook her head. "No, worse. A man. He followed my car for miles, just walking. I think he's been watching me for days." Paul glanced in the rearview mirror but saw only empty road and fog. "Well, you're safe now," he reassured her, though he wasn't sure if he believed it. The truck jolted slightly as he hit a bump in the road, and Marcy flinched. Her reaction unnerved him. As they approached a small rest stop, Paul said, "I'll pull over here and call for help." Marcy's face drained of color. "No, don't stop, please." "Marcy, you need to calm down," Paul said, his patience wearing thin. But before he could say more, his radio crackled to life. A distorted voice came through. "Truck driver heading westbound on Route 14. Be advised. A suspect matching the description of a missing woman has been seen in your area. Approach with caution." Paul froze. He glanced at Marcy, who sat rigid in her seat, her hands gripping her knees. "Marcy, what's going on?" She didn't answer. Instead, she lunged for the steering wheel, forcing the truck off the road. Paul fought for control as the truck screeched to a halt. Before he could react, Marcy jumped out and sprinted into the fog. Paul grabbed his flashlight and followed, his boots crunching on the gravel. "Marcy, come back!" The beam of his flashlight cut through the mist, and then he saw it, a figure standing still in the distance. It wasn't Marcy. The man was tall, his face obscured by a hood. He was holding something, a bloodied car key. Paul's blood ran cold as he realized the truth. Marcy wasn't running from the man. She had been with him, and now she had lured Paul into their trap. Before Paul could turn back, a sharp pain exploded at the back of his head. His flashlight fell to the ground, and darkness consumed him. The next morning, his truck was found abandoned on the roadside. The authorities discovered blood on the seat and 2 sets of footprints leading into the woods, but no trace of Paul. To this day, drivers on Route 14 report strange sightings in the fog. A pale woman and a hooded man standing by the road, waiting for their next victim.